It's the last 45 minutes on the mountain for the Liquid Moly 2016. 12 hours at Bathurst, and Shane van Gisbergen, the man who smashed the qualifying record on Saturday with the Kiwi orange and black McLaren, is at it again. Broke the lap record, fastest we've ever seen anything go around the mountain this morning, and it's led to some fabulous racing. Big tyre blowout for the Audi heading up the mountain, and that caused our 11th safety car period. It's good news for Van Gisbergen, that actually, because it let him get back up to the back of the pack after he'd made a slight mistake in the pit lane and got pinged for speeding. It's been close, very close indeed. Van Gisbergen has been on full out attack mode. Look how close the 82 Audi was to total disaster at the top of the mountain. Take a look again here. That's another car, not the same one, but almost the same result. Down in the pits, it's all been about getting things right. The Nissan was coming out, but not quick enough, and Van Gisbergen in the Techno Autosports McLaren is back at the front of the field. Bentley in third position now has Stephen Kane behind the wheel to take it to the flag. But the top three are separated by nothing at all as we head into the last 43 minutes.
So, what a race it's been, and the margins are so small at the end of a very long day at the office. That's how they run. Pirelli leading Michelin. Pirelli have been desperate to break Michelin's stranglehold on this race, and that tyre war's been a topic throughout the course of the weekend. Car 5, the Audi continues to lead the AM class and the Darrell Lee GT3 cars. The Groves in front in Ridge's Class B. Very, very strong performance from them. And in the BM Pro Invitational class, it's the Jake Camilleri, Morgan Haber and Aaron Seaton, Mark Cars Australia Mazda, that still tops the charts and running an outstanding 13th outright. So much to play for at Mount Panorama. The race is building up to a huge conclusion. You'll see it here live. New South Wales, so much to offer. 7.5 million people call this home. Biggest city in Australia in Sydney. From the slopes to the beach, a bit of World Rally in there and some country music. Great shopping, great cafes, just about everything to offer here in the great state of New South Wales. We're about 3 hours inland from the city of Sydney, a town called Bathurst, a racetrack called Mount Panorama, and an unbelievable motor race that's got so much to offer. We have broken one record today, 29 changes of the lead. That is the most in the history of this motor race.
Wow. You can imagine how Jono Webb would be feeling at the moment. Team boss and driver. Jono, how are the nerves holding up at this point with Shane out there?
Yeah, they're definitely starting to pick up. There's a few butterflies kicking around. Actually escaped to the corporate box upstairs, thinking maybe that's where I could relax for a minute, but now I'm more out of control than anywhere else. So I'm back down here, just fingers crossed.
Okay, how do you see this playing out for Shane?
Look, at the moment, it's really, really good. Obviously, we've got a nice gap, got fuel and tyres to run to the end. So hopefully it stays like that. He can be comfortable and pick his own pace and come home with a victory.
Who's your biggest danger?
Oh, definitely the Nissans. You know, they're been quick all day. The car's super fast on a straight line. The safety car comes, they'll, you know, I think we're quicker across the top, but up and down the mountain, they're extremely quick. So, but we'll push on. You know, Shane's loving the car. He's been happy all day, as he was yesterday in qualifying. So, yeah, we'll just sit tight.
He's an amazing driver. He amazes us. Does he still impress you?
He's still as out of control as ever. We had 3 years at Techno to try and tame him in a V8, and that didn't happen, and certainly not going to happen in a McLaren either.
Don't shut him down. He's good. Good luck, Jono.
Thank you.
Says that with a smile because they had some great times together, did Jono Webb. He's done a really solid job today, has Webby, former Porsche Carrera Cup Australia racer. Great success. Development Series champion in V8 supercars as well, and plenty of time in the main game. Continue that role. His team loses SVG to 888 and the Red Bull Commodore for the V8 supercars this year, but gains Will Davison. So not a bad swap in terms of driving capabilities.
Well, so this is game on because Gio has just taken a second and a half out of Van Gisbergen on the last lap. 11.7 seconds the gap now.
Yeah, don't count Gio out. Traffic is going to play a part here, and there's not that much of it left now. So what we've got is a proper all-out battle. A lot of people tuned in around the world, thanks to our international syndication, and all talking about the purity of this race. Yes, we've had the safety car out there, but the safety car procedures are simple and quick here on the mountain. And thanks to our race director and the supplementary regulations, we get back to green flag very quickly, and that has been enjoyed by everyone from you to the US and indeed further afield. And what we've got now is the two best drivers, the two fastest guys of the weekend at it at the head of the field. Stephen Kane trying to get on terms with them. 3 different cars in the top 3, 4 different cars in the top 4, 5 different cars in the top 5.
It's certainly fair to say there's nothing, it's no less engaging, this race, than in 2015. What it is, it's got more flow because we've had less interruption, and that certainly has been a very welcome development for 2016.
The battle for second place, third place, correction, is absolutely on here. And once again, Lawrence Vanthoor finds himself jammed up behind that big rear wing of a Bentley Continental GT3. And he gets to this point and goes, oh, because just doesn't quite have the straight line performance. He's going to have to do something mega across the top.
That is a battle for position, as you can see on the screen. We're going to take our last break from the action for those of you watching on 7 or 7 Mate here in Australia. When we come back, we'll take you all the way to the checkered flag at the end of the 2016 Liqui Moly Bathurst 12 Hours. Don't go too far away.
Back at Mount Panorama for the Liqui Moly Bathurst 12 Hour. There's 32 minutes remaining. We're 281 laps into this race. 1,745 Ks done and dusted. The margin, 11 seconds. That's it between Shane van Gisbergen and Katsumasa Chiyo. Stephen Kane under pressure from Lawrence Vanthoor. The margin 7/10 in the fight for the final spot on the podium. All the way through to the flag, John Hindhoff and Graham Goodwin alongside me. It's been a remarkable day with so many stories to talk about, and there might still be some more to write at the end of this one.
Well, there's one place that Bentley won't want to be this year, and that's 4th. And last year's effort here sparkled, but ultimately they were, I guess you could say they were robbed at the final turn there. But Stephen Kane...
Well, they would have said they were mugged, wouldn't they?
Yep. He's got one job, and that's bring it home, and bring it home as high up the field as you possibly can. 27 seconds back from Chiyo, and Chiyo is holding that gap to Van Gisbergen.
Nobody should have any worries about fuel, because they all stopped at a chosen time, not when they were forced to. They all stopped when they wanted to, and they put in as much fuel as they felt they needed. So if anything goes wrong on that front, there's no one to blame but the teams themselves. So in theory, guys, everybody should be turned up to 11 in terms of the fuel map and should be pushing absolutely as hard as they can. They're all on at least one stint plus old tyres, so that's pretty even as well. So now it's just going to be down to the nut at the end of the steering wheel and what performance that they can wring out of these 3 very different cars at the head of the field.
Interestingly enough, the car in 4th place has made the least amount of pit stops out of anybody in contention. 8 stops for the Phoenix Racing Audi, 13 times through the lane for Shane van Gisbergen. And the Nissan and the Bentley, 11 times apiece.
Well, the Phoenix car, of course, tried to stay out to get laps back, and therefore have not always topped the tank off. And that's rather being forced on them. The race has come back to them, and they might be the unluckiest team of all. They're 1.3 seconds behind a podium position at the moment, but it doesn't appear to me that Laurent Vanthoor has given that up, Graham.
No, meantime, for the lead, the hurry-up call has certainly come to Chiyo, because he's taken a second down to Van Gisbergen in the first 2 sectors of this lap. They're going to cross the line.
Yeah, this is good stuff. Chiyo starting to wind himself up now in the fight for the lead. What sort of lap does he do? 4.5 for Van Gisbergen.
3.0.
Oh. Fastest lap for the car today.
Oh.
Katsumasa Chiyo is starting to close the margin down to Shane van Gisbergen. Under 10 seconds.
Crazy, this is what he did last year, if you remember. It was like they'd flicked a switch in the last 35, 40 minutes. Maybe they've asked him to do exactly that again. They'll have run the numbers, they'll have run them again, and then just 3 times for luck to make sure that their fuel calculations were right. And now they've turned him up to full attack mode. And the #1 car, defending champions on the mountain, is on and up the hill, and he's on it. And Shane van Gisbergen will get the call. It's down to 9.882 seconds. The advantage nowadays, of course, you don't have to wait to go past the pits to see how far the guys were. Back in the old days that I remember, it was a pit board hanging out. They'll have been on the blower to him, on the telephone, straight into his ears and saying, Chayo is coming, and he's coming quickly.
He's coming very quickly, half a second more in the first sector from Chayo. The gap is down to 9.5.
What a time for Chio-san to start stepping things up in the Nissan. Rick Kelly looks very nervous watching on. Doesn't matter what race it is at Bathurst, when it gets this late in the stage, you're in with a shot, the nerves must be absolutely there.
Yeah, oh, look, there's not a lot we can do. Shane's very, very quick, there's no doubt about that. He's maintaining, you know, around a 10 to 12 second gap there. We know that if he wants to push, he'll go into the 202s pretty comfortably. So for us, all we can do is try our best, and Chio's doing a great job of that. Obviously, just got the fastest lap of the race for our car, which is impressive, but it's a pretty big gap to try and close up in just a few laps.
He's a pretty crazy dude, isn't he, Chio? We saw what he achieved last year. He's just such an excitable guy.
Yeah, but as far as the driver goes, he's really exceptional as well. Looking at the data and him getting the most out of the car, it's been really good learning weekend for me to see what he can do in this car around this track is very impressive. So it's a good thing he's in the car now to finish off as strong as we possibly can.
A lot of nervous energy down here at the Nismo team. Nissan trying to go back-to-back at the mountain just like they did in the early 90s.
Van Gisbergen responds, Chad, with a 203.4, but Chio still took 3.5 tenths out of the lead last time round. He'll fall short if he does it at 3.5 tenths a lap. But with lap traffic and the way it ebbs and flows around this 6.2 Ks, it might go quicker.
When did the McLaren stop? What was that lap that they stopped, or what? How long did they have to go? They were just on the hour mark,
266, wasn't it? So yeah. 267.
So they've done 20. They'll be doing 24. Yeah, okay. I think they can do that.
Are you suggesting there may be a concern in the back of their mind about just saving a little bit?
I think so.
In this final hour.
I think at this point, you don't do anything silly. You leave Van Gis out there doing. If he can do the 3s through traffic, that's going to be fine. We know he can go quicker, but that's a turbocharged engine. It'll burn fuel. The turbo on Nissan will also be burning fuel, but they stopped much later, and they put as much fuel in it as they felt they were going to need. Here's the traffic that's going to be the problem for both of these guys. It's Chio who's going to deal with it now.
SVG copped it at the top of the hill, so it'll even itself out over the course of the lap. Although I think Chio actually got the worst of it because he's dropped 2 seconds in the middle sector.
Sometimes getting information out of the techno guys, well, to be honest, you might need some kind of water torture techniques, but thankfully Alvaro Brent was happy to tell me that they're pretty confident that they can get home on the fuel that they've got. They filled that car all the way to the brim, they brought it back in, they filled it up again, so there was no short fill there to try and get track position. But 2 things about this. On Friday, that team ran endless amounts of laps, every single time checking fuel data. Chatting to Will Davison in the sister McLaren in the 60, he was fascinated at just how much work and how much attention they pay to that. So they knew exactly how many laps they'd be able to get out of a tank, how long they'd be able to run at the end of this race. That is some pretty fine mathematics to get that thing home. So I won't be too worried about that. The other thing I want to mention, guys, remember that fuel rig swap? They said that would take about 6 to 7 seconds out of each pit stop. And how close is that gap between first and second? It's the 1%, John, that makes such a difference.
Absolutely right. And the Optimum guys are on for a big, big Barbie and beer bill at the end of this one. If this comes through, their misfortune, and they went out of the race with the rear wheel tucked under on that car on the left-hand side. Immediately, the thought was the faster filling fuel rig needed to come down to the 59 car, and that will have saved them a lot of time. Far more than they've got in hand. It's gone back out to 13 seconds, fellas.
Yeah, slower lap last time. Traffic in the second and third sectors for the Nissan. So 12.9.
McLaren campers thinking now. The nerves start to creep in when you get this close. 285 laps in. We get 15 laps in 25 minutes? Probably not. McLaren have history at Mount Panorama. An amazing Australian driver by the name of Neil Allen held the outright lap record here in McLaren for a long time. It was set in 1979. From memory, it wasn't broken until the 2000s.
The battle, gentlemen, may well be for the last step on the podium. If we just keep an eye on what's going on at the head of the field, of course we will. But Stephen Kane has got Laurent Vantour trying to close him down, and they're trading tenths of seconds as well, as through comes the McLaren. That car looks absolutely immaculate. It looks exactly as it did when it started the race. There's no dings, there's no bent bits, there's no tape, there's nothing falling off it. And that's, of course, how you win endurance races.
2:03.4 for Van Gisbergen that time round, 3:8. 13.3 seconds. Is the margin, just ebbs and flows in traffic. 23 minutes to go, tension building. McLaren edging ever closer. Nissan looking for a defence. Steve Hallam, speaking of McLaren, used to work for them in a Formula One perspective. Wealth of knowledge, and brought over to Australia. Looked after the Holden Racing team for some time, and now across, based up in Queensland with Techno Autosport looking after their operation, and that's an expanding team. A V8 supercar for Will Davis and 3 McLarens in Australian GT this year. And he's success that team's had in V8 racing over the last 3 years has been attributed to his leadership in building that team.
There is something just entirely appropriate about seeing a Nismo GTR across the top of the mountain, isn't it? When you're of a certain age and you remember the original Godzillas around here, the car that was so good it was legislated out of motorsport. And Nissan and Nismo back with a bang last year in the best possible way. The V8 Ultima, the parallel program in V8 supercars.
So the 30th of March 1970 it was, Neil Allen in McLaren F5000 car did his 2:09.7 pre-Caltex chase. So it was over 2K straight down to what is now Maguire's Murray's Corner. Chio gets past the Castrol Mark Cars Australia entry. That lap record stood for a very, very long time and remained the fastest lap.
That was a Formula
1987 circuit for a long
Formula
time.
5000 car,
Correct.
which would have been on slicks, which would have had a huge amount of power and would have had about a third of the weight of these machines. And these are GTs built from street cars. All right, let's go through that. I'm just put that in perspective for you there, dear viewer and listener. Let's go through the classes. In the Ridges B class, the Grove Motorsport car took control of that at about 3/4 distance, maybe a little further back through the race, and Scott McLaughlin has really enjoyed his endurance racing this weekend, along with Earl Bamber and Steve Grove, the man who owns the car. They have got a significant gap back to the rest of the B class runners. It's the safety stop, number 6 Porsche in second, Richard Gardner and Daniel Studdard in the JFC Freedom Rotax car in third. That's the 21 car. In the BM Pro Invitation class, the I category cars, Mark Cars Australia had all 5 of the top places at one stage, still hold positions 1, 2 and 3. And Jake Camilleri is the man at the moment behind the wheel of the leading car, the Darrell Lee stick-sponsored machine. Second place is teammate Tony Alford in the Donut King car, and then Mark Cars Australia's Hadrian Morrell in the 92 in third position. And in fact, they're back into all 5 of the top places again, with James Vernon in the 91 and Gerard McLeod, even after that horrible puncture in the right rear, has the 94 car back into 5th position.
And that just goes to show just how serviceable that car is, doesn't it? What have we got here?
We've got an off for the number 5 car, which is leading the Darrell Lee Class A AM part of the GT3 category.
6 overall.
Nathan Antunes, the GT Motorsport guys, will be absolutely delighted. That is a change for position, gentlemen.
That's the change for 8th position, because Garth Tander has gone by Will Davison. Garth Tander in the number 75 Jamek Pem Audi. Not the day that team wanted.
And more frustratingly for them than the issues that have put it back down the field, I would suggest, Crailsey, is that when Garth Tander was up behind the leaders trying to get a lap back, he was every bit as quick as the cars that were fighting for the top 4 or 5 places. So it's a case of what might have been for this car.
Yeah, they've been good today. They've been really good. I think they'll be proud of their effort. They'll be frustrated and disappointed because they had a realistic shot at a podium finish. Interestingly enough, Scott McLaughlin's just brought the Richards Class B leader back into pit lane for a top-off just to make sure they're going to get to the end of the motor race. Yeah, they'll be disappointed for sure. It's been a good drive for Garth Tander, still punching out very good lap times. And Steve McLaughlin, who hasn't been racing for a huge amount of time, especially in these highly specialised, highly skilled GT cars, has done a very good job today. And that GT3 AM battle as well has been really good. And Greg Taylor, who's the AM driver in that number 5 Adena Property Group entry, has been a very, very worthy performance at this point in time. They've got 3 laps up on their nearest rival, which is Roger Largo's JBS Racing Lamborghini.
Stephen Kane in 3rd position has managed to eke out the 7.2 seconds that will give him just a little bit of a breathing space for that 3rd place on the podium. I think the 4 car coming in, by the way, Crailsey, was Scotty getting out and the car owner, Stephen Grove, being given the honour of bringing it to the line. That's what I would have done.
Good call.
He did say that that's what would happen. They said about an hour ago that given the opportunity, they've got a 16-lap lead in that class because of just an epic Ironman, 3-man Ironman stints with the number 4 car. Number 60 car, meanwhile, on pit road.
So they've got a lap up on the JBS Lamborghini, 9th and 10th on the road. Will Davison behind the wheel, just sitting in pit lane.
Are they soaking a penalty up there, guys?
No one's touching the car.
Stop and hold penalties aren't particularly common. Fire up and go.
Or not.
9th place on the road for this car. It's had a troubled day. They will hold that position, though.
I'm going to suggest that that's not in 1st gear.
I'm going to suggest that that's not firing at all cylinders.
Yeah.
Imagine life as a windshield at Mount Panorama too. Not sure exactly how Will Davison's seeing out of that, but nevertheless, especially through right-hand corners, looking across to the apex.
So 17 minutes remain, and Shane van Gisbergen has been pulling away gradually from the Nissan. All of a sudden, though,
Chio's not done yet, Graham. 2:03.03, fastest lap for that car of the day. Not giving up. Because at Mount Panorama, you just never know. There's still 16 minutes to go as we work towards lap 290.
The bottom of the car scraping the curbs as Van Gisbergen comes down through the dipper again on his 289th time, or at least on the car's 289th time. Shane hasn't been in it for all the laps, of course. And we're into the last 16 minutes.
Still hear that front splitter scraping on the ground.
Well, they run them effectively now like a Formula car. You're running 0 ride height. You basically jack the car up just enough so that it clears the ground on the bumpy bits.
Led 93 laps today, Techno Autosport. The Nissan in that middle stint, or later middle stint of the race, sort of hours 6 till 9, eked their way in front. 107 laps led for car 1. They've led a bulk of the running today. There's 200 laps between those 2 cars. The Bentleys, both of them, have shared the lead. Car 36, the Erebus SLS, was out in front early, and car 63, they led a couple of laps during one of those early pit stop shuffles. But 107 laps in front for car number 1. Techno drawing ever closer to that number as they start lap 290. The gap constant at 13.7 seconds. Chio takes another half a second out of the lead that time round. He's doing everything he can. He needs some help from something, someone, somewhere to help close that margin to Shane van Gisbergen. Stephen Kane has eked away from Lawrence Vantor. Was going to take something amazing from Vantor to get that podium position away.
So car 60, the sister McLaren's been chasing a little gremlin all day, and they've had to do a couple of little reboots on it. So that's all that was with Will coming into the pits to get that car restarted. Now, you could say that you could just do that on the racetrack and save yourself the time of having to come down pit lane like we saw Alvaro Parent do earlier. Now, why would you not do that on the racetrack, guys? Because if it doesn't restart, you bring up the safety car and you cost the other car a potential win. So White's thinking to just do that reboot in the pits, even if it does cost them an extra 40 seconds.
Yeah, and that's actually not the standard operating procedure. You picked up on a cracker there, because teams would rather do it out on the track when you've got the issue with everything running, rather than having to put it onto the pit lane speed limiter and add another variable into the potential electrical gremlin. We've seen it even as high up as the LMP1 cars at Spa and Le Mans, with Porsche preferring Romain Dumas to do that Control-Alt-Delete while he was rolling on the pit, on the racetrack, rather than bringing it down in the pit. So that is a change of normal operating procedure from the McLaren teams working together at the front of the field, and brilliantly picked up by Chad down there in the pits.
It's a good spot. This is up at the top of the racetrack at the elbow. Taking liberties where he can. With just a few minutes to go in the race, and this from on board. Think quick, Chio, think quick, and that's what he did.
Think quick, steer quicker. That's remarkable, isn't it?
These guys operate at such a high level.
Their clock speed is different to everyone else's. It's as simple as that in IT terms. 60 is out, but not up to speed. As through goes Laurent Vantour.
The battered Bentley behind them.
Now, that Bentley could do his teammate a bit of a favour here by getting through. Andy Soucek gets through between, in front of that Audi, and he puts himself between that car and Stephen Kim, who granted has pulled out 7 seconds, but I think the M Sport team would like to see a little more green and white between those two cars.
Phoenix Racing have shown their class today. 2012 winners of this motor race with Chris Meese, Chris DeJonts and Darrell O'Young. I know Darrell's watching. He loves this place. He's won it twice, this motor race, and we'll be back next year, he tells us, with a couple of Porsche GT3Rs. Most things should be weapons at this place.
Darrell Young is, I saw him here yesterday. He was cruising the paddock, and here is the pass. Now, this is not for position, but significant in terms of protecting third place for the sister Bentley.
I suspect the Audi's tyres have done.
Yeah.
It's just unable to respond to the pace of the Bentley ahead.
It was going to take some kind of move to get the job done, because he was going to have to do it at the cutting and between the cutting to the elbow, and then risk being passed again in a straight line. But where they've been so classy is their strategy. They've completed 3 less pit stops than the 2 cars in front of them on the road, and they've kept themselves in the game by being smart, by being consistent with a couple of really good driving stints as well. It's a pleasure to watch. Laurent Vantour, Winkelhock was epic. Alex Davison contributed well. Just such an amazing team. May they keep coming back to this place time and time again, because that's going to be good fun.
We talk crazy, don't we, about how in a 12-hour race getting pole position doesn't normally make a lot of difference. How many times has the pole sitter
only twice the leading car has gone on to win the motor race, and in both occasions by no means has it been comprehensive. So
11 minutes left, and Chio takes a second out of the lead.
It's remarkable they're still doing the times they are after 290 odd laps of Mount Panorama. And if you'd suggest to somebody, anybody in this pit lane, that you'd be punching out mid-203s after 290 laps of a 12-hour race, you said that 3 or 4 years ago, you'd be laughed at.
Oh, you would have been laughed at. You'd have been carted away by men in white coats.
And the resurfacing of the circuit 24 months ago helped the cause, yes. But the pace of development in GT3 racing is unbelievable. And we spoke yesterday about the goalpost being moved with what Shane Van Gisbergen did for pole, and they continue to be so.
And don't forget, there is a tyre war. 2 different companies here supplying tyres. It's not a spec tyre, so you can't be as conservative as you might want to be as a tyre supplier when it's a single manufacturer. And Pirelli have pulled out the stops, bringing the special VLN tyre that was tested last year in Germany for the rounds on the Nordschleife. That's what they've supplied to their customers here. They knew they needed something special to take on the might of Michelin around here. And that is why battles between teams and suppliers are always good for not just the motor racing, but also for us at the end of the day, because this is a laboratory at 300 kilometres an hour for Pirelli, and the Bentley the same for Michelin. Through comes the Grove car. Stephen Grove behind the wheel of that machine, the Grove Hire car. That is a big party in Prospect as well.
The tension up and down the garage is immense, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's still tense in 11 seconds. We've become accustomed to these last lap shootouts at Mount Panorama, but we need to remember they've been racing for 12 hours. 11 seconds covering 2 cars after 12 hours and 40 seconds covering 4 of them is unbelievable. It shows how competitive this race has been and how deep the field is that we could even get to that point and talk about the race changing hands in the final half an hour. Because endurance races of old, you'd be winning by 6 laps.
Yeah.
And we'd be inventing things to think about. Tension down in the Nismo camp. Great collaboration between the UK, Australia and Japan to put this program together. And should they end up second, it's certainly no dishonour after a victory last year. It's not a bad defence of your Bathurst title.
They will look back on the early sessions, I think, at Nissan and just wonder why they couldn't get the balance of the car better in those early sessions. Qualifying 13th ultimately didn't hurt them that much, but there was clearly something not quite right with that new car. That's not the same car that won last year. There have been some revisions and perhaps there's still a little learning process, but it will be back next year. Nissan Australia have bought the car and it will race again at this race in 12 months' time, and we hope to see it out in some of the late season Aussie GT races. That's the gap between first and second. That's what it looks like on Conrod Straight.
It didn't look the force that it was in 2015 for much of the week, did it, the GTR, but it came into its own during the race. And Chio has been magnificent in pursuit of Shane van Gisbergen, a man that, let's face it, guys, has been a level apart from much of the rest of the grid.
Can you remember any fumble or mistake by the Nissan?
No, and as far as I can recall, they've only been passed on track once or twice today. A couple of times in pit lane, hasn't quite worked, but they've been immense. Unbelievable performance. 11.8. Chio takes more time out, and he's still going very close to the personal best lap of the car.
7 minutes.
The fact Van Gisbergen did a 2:01.5 on lap 23 was another. The lap after that, he did a 1:06, so he backed up that. He's the only car to do a 2:01 in a motor race at Mount Panorama ever, and he did a couple of them, and that showed their superiority. That was just a warning early on this morning that, bang, we've got this if we need it.
How big is this going to be for McLaren, Graham? You mentioned that they haven't won any of the really big international races since 1995. The whole of the GT programme is at Woking.
It's going to be huge because McLaren's first effort at GT3, great looking car, but really wasn't quite the full ticket. Though we saw the car have some fantastic runs, including here, but this is a whole different ball game, and what they're looking for is a 200-mile-an-hour billboard, and that's exactly what they've got here.
Ashley Vettiger has tweeted in using the hashtag B12HR. What's the marks on the windows, the windscreens of the Techno cars? It's just a little place where, see them there, they've either got some dirt on it or it's a little bit of dirt that's got under the 2 layers of the tear-offs. You can still see this tear-offs if you look to the extreme left-hand side of the windscreen. You can see a little dark triangle there. That's where the mechanic would get hold of it and peel off the thin film. And that's either just a little bit of dirt that's on there that they haven't wiped off, or it's just got between the 2 layers and they've just sort of delaminated the 2 very thin layers of plastic.
And these windscreens with the tear-offs are actually built in
together.
in one piece, or one. What they don't do is fit the tear-offs to an old windscreen.
No, that's right. The windscreen is out of the car and the tear-offs, sometimes up to 6 or 7 different layers, which have to be, of course, absolutely optically correct. It's a very, very skilled job to get it done.
10.2 seconds, but only 5 minutes remain now.
He's going, is Chio, 2:03.2 last time round. It's only 2 tenths slower than his best lap of the motor race. We should mention McLaren have brought an army with them here, 15 people from the UK, including a lot of the head honchos of their GT program. Andrew Cocotti, who's raced in this race, is here. Baz Linders, who's taking over their GT program, is here. Dave Eden, who's the head of PR for McLaren Road Cars and their GT program, is here. So they've brought this in force. And it's been an amazing result. It's the first time they've thrown everything they've got at this race. They've had a toe-in-the-water exercise for the last couple of years with Tony Quinn's team to privateer entries. Two-car team, Techno Autosports partnering up. It's been an enormous, enormous program.
If we go to the end of the race, we'll have done 1 hour and 19 minutes safety car free. Already we're at the second longest green flag stint, and we have seen the cars performing to their best along with the teams and drivers.
29 different lead changes in the race. That is a record for the Liqui Moly Bathurst 12-hour between 8 different cars.
And Chio still pushing the fastest first sector for the car. If these guys are going down, they're going to go down with honour.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? With margin 10 seconds.
It's under that now.
You can never give up at Mount Panorama.
People tuned in around the world to the last 3.5 minutes. Well, thanks to our streaming partners for a superb international stream that has garnered compliments and comments from literally around the globe, taking the 2016 Liqui Moly Bathurst 12 hours to a bigger global audience than ever before, as well, of course, as being flag to flag here in Australia on 7 and 7 mate. And still the Bentley pushing on with 11 seconds to go. 2:02.9 for Chio.
8.4 seconds with 3 minutes remain.
1.7 seconds out of Shane Van Gisbergen last time round. He is going down swinging. Fastest lap of the car for the day on lap 295. We're on the 296th lap. At the end of this lap, we equal the most number of laps completed in the motor race.
And this is why this is such a fan favourite. They race with spirit, and Chio's doing exactly that with 2.5 minutes remaining. 2 laps it will take now to complete this motor race.
We've had the fastest ever competitive lap in both qualifying and the race. We're going to have the longest distance completed in a 12-hour race on the mountain. This truly has been a record-breaking and new record-setting edition of the race, with more fans to witness it than ever before. That's another one to chalk off, and the 2016 Liqui Moly Bathurst 12 hours is going into the history books. This event has turned a corner. It's international and global in every sense of the word. Look at the drivers, look at the manufacturers who are in the top positions. McLaren, from Nissan, from Bentley, from Audi, from Mercedes-Benz, the top 5.
Chio has taken 2.3 seconds out of the leader in the first 2 sectors of this lap. Yes, Shane Van Gisbergen will be in more or less a cruise mode to get home, but it's going to be a lot closer than we thought. There he is. That's the gap. It's visual.
So this should be the start of the last lap for Shane Van Gisbergen as he comes through. There's 1 minute and 5 to go.
It's 5:43 local time, plus 1 lap. Here comes Chio. What time does he do? It's a 2:02.46.
It's 5 seconds. 5 seconds for the final lap of the 2016 Bathurst 12-hour.
You can almost see him. He's just over the brow. You just won't be able to see him.
Surely not. Surely not. 297th lap of the motor race, a record.
There could be no stumble from Van Gisbergen here with traffic, and Chio is on an absolute tear up Mountain Straight through Griffins. Again, the script writers have come up with an absolute classic. If you wrote this down, they'd call it fiction, as they're going up the hill now for what we believe is the final time. And Chio is within sight now. The marshals are clapping Van Gisbergen. Van Gisbergen is enjoying the evening sunshine, and Chio-san is still keeping him honest.
1.3 seconds closer in the first sector. The gap now down to under 4 seconds.
And Chio is coming hard. Has he just timed this to perfection? Shane Van Gisbergen, surely this can't be taken away from Techno now. He's got a clear run ahead of him. Not much traffic to trim him up now, Creelsey.
Confirming final lap. Into the elbow for the final time. Shane van Gisbergen for Techno Autosports McLaren. You can see the Nissan in the rearview mirror.
It's another second gone in the second sector.
Chio is absolutely flying.
He's
Can
catching
van
it.
Gisbergen erase the memories of Techno in 2014?
The teams are on the pit wall. Everyone is on the Luke Molly start-finish straight. Van Gisbergen will be able to see the bright white headlights. He's got 3 corners as he comes through the Caltex chase for the last time. He'll just come down the hill towards Maguire's. The crowd, you can hear the crowd over the noise of the racing cars. Shane van Gisbergen can kick out the clutch. He's going to win it, but just Techno take it in 2016.
What a motor race. Chio across the line.
1.2 seconds. 1.2 seconds. What an astonishing end to that race.
That is amazing. Chio threw everything he had at Shane van Gisbergen. He fell 1.2 seconds short. What a motor race.
To complete the podium.
Stephen Kane for Bentley. Denied in the final corner last year. Agonisingly close to a podium on debut at Mount Panorama. The famous British mark. Well, they're going to bounce back with Matt Bell and Stephen Kane. Amazing stuff. Shay.
Jono Webb, that was much closer than we thought it would be. Your heart was beating like crazy, but congrats, you've won the 12 Hours of Bathurst. How are you feeling?
It's amazing. I mean, couldn't keep the butterflies down for the last hour or two. Once we had that last stop and we were pushing on, and look, Shane drove amazingly. All the boys have done a fantastic job, and what an awesome introduction for Techno to McLaren GT.
Congrats, and can't wait to hear from Shane.
Thank you.
Last time we saw a major endurance race won by McLaren was 2012, the Barcelona 24 Hours. We've seen wins in sprint racing in the United States and in Europe. But the last time we saw a race bigger than this won by the guys from Woking, it was 1995, and it was the Le Mans 24 Hours. What lies ahead for that grand British mark?
Yannick Dalmas and JJ Lato part of that.
And Masinora Sakaya.
Correct, yep. As part of that squad, an amazing victory. Bentley on the podium, so that's an enormous result. As Shane van Gisbergen brings the 59 car, he set the qualifying lap record, the fastest ever lap of Mount Panorama. Yesterday in qualifying, he won the Alan Simonson Pole Award. He's broken the outright lap record in today's motor race.
You have to say that was an absolutely magnificent race, and made at the very end there by the fighting spirit of Nissan, the Nissan GTR, and excuse me, Katsumasa Chio. But this man has just bossed it all weekend.
Yeah,
what a race.
It's been an inspiring performance from him, and the way he's driven this racing car and asserted his authority when he needs it. Beretta's got the winner.
Well, Shane van Gisbergen, what an incredible weekend it's been, from pole position through to lap records for the race and through to the win tonight. What a gutsy driving effort it's been by you. Congratulations.
Just thanks to the team. The car has been fastest all weekend, so to win that on strategy and then pace, it's amazing. So thanks to the guys, thanks to Jonathan and Alvaro. Big heart in the mouth moment when it stopped earlier, but she hung on for the rest of the weekend, so awesome.
It's a real fighting effort all day. Tell me about that Nissan coming up behind you. Were you aware of the Nissan closing?
Yeah, we had him covered, so anytime he did a lap, I just stuck the knife in and did the same. So just got it to the end. Bloody great.
How good was this car?
Oh, it's awesome. This is the car I raced in Europe, so she's a beauty.
All right, let's have a moment, catch up with John on the team. Well done.
Navarro Parent gets a Bathurst victory as well on his debut on the mountain. What a performance. 5 different brands in the top 5 for the second time in 2 years at Mount Panorama. And McLaren becomes the 5th different brand from 6 GT encounters on the mountain. So the diversity continues. Confirm the final results. It was McLaren, and we should mention the first win for Pirelli here as well. They threw everything they had at this weekend, and they delivered in the end. A runner-up result for the defending champions, and Bentley finally on the podium. Phoenix Racing, former winners, fought like anything and got home in 4th. And 1 lap behind in the final race for the SLS AMG for Erebus Motorsport in P5 was David Reynolds. Some walking wounded throughout the field, but a superb 12th outright for the Ridges Class B winner, Stephen Grove, Scott McLaughlin and Earl Bamber. The Mark Cars Australia car finished line astern with them for BM Pro Invitational. Jack Camilleri, Morgan Haber And young Aaron Seaton gets a Bathurst victory. Seaton wins at Bathurst. That's got a certain ring about it, doesn't it? 21 finishes from 36 starters, a bruising race in the end, and a lot of tale of woe to talk about. There'll be some long faces drowning their sorrows later on tonight, including the 2014 winners. Maranello Motorsport essentially outed on the opening lap of the race. It all started at 5:45 a.m. this morning as we take in our Nissan highlights, and what would be a theme for the day, car 59 went to the front. That was turn 2. Mika Salo and Nick Percat didn't make friends early in today's race, and that removed both cars from contention. Jared McLeod, the Mark Cars Australia Focus, the CCV car was off. Shane van Gisbergen dealt with the sun as he went over Skyline. The Brands of Donuts had an incident down there at the elbow, and there was some wild racing at the top. Cayman GT4 car, number 16, Pro Sport Performance car, all the way from Germany, survived a wild moment at the top of Mount Panorama. CCV car found the fence again, and this was amazing racing. And bear in mind, with Alvaro Parent behind the wheel, they had an electrical gremlin in the McLaren. The car stopped on pit straight for 45 seconds, had to reset the car at one point. And for a while there, we thought that race might slip away, because later, Shane van Gisbergen got a drive-through penalty for speeding in pit lane. The Bentleys looked strong from the outset. Erebus Motorsport were in the game all day. Strange miscue in pit lane cost them some time, and punctures also ruled the roost here on the mountain. This was SVG with a spin in front. Luke Gilden behind the wheel of the JBS Racing Lamborghini. The locals are watching on. 31 Bentley will feel disappointed with their day today, Graham.
Both Bentleys suffering punctures and what could have been for Bentley, but they'll be happier this year with an overall podium.
At least they got one. In the end, they were denied last year. Ferrari had a pretty tough day. They have a massive presence around the precinct this weekend, but couldn't get the chocolates in the end. Mark Sini's Audi crashed. This was controversial, dubbed a racing incident in the end, and that removed another contender, because that number 37 Darrell Lee McLaren was on the lead lap.
And was leading the AM class at that stage.
Side-by-side racing was a feature. 29 different leaders today, a record for this motor race. 17-year-old Austin Cindric found the wall at turn 2. That removed one Erebus car from contention. And this was more wild racing. Wheel-to-wheel, Bentley and Nissan. Porsche in the wall, top of the mountain. Crunch.
For the APO Sport car.
And that took them out of the day's running. And there really were some damaged cars at the end of this motor race. Chio, one of the highlights was him going around the outside of Lawrence Vantor on Mountain Straight with two wheels off in the grass. And the sister McLaren, well, in the end, they managed to get that car to the finish in 9th place with Will Davison behind the wheel. Solid day after troubles early.
Absolutely, but the end of the race was all about Shane van Gisbergen fending off the ever closer tensions of the Nissan GTR. 1.2 seconds. What an astonishing finish again.
Chio threw everything he could at Mount Panorama for the second time in 2 years and came oh so close. Crowd, as is Bathurst tradition, assembled beneath the iconic podium here. Just over 37,000 people over 3 days. A record crowd, up 15% on previous years here at Bathurst for the Liqui Moly 12-hour. Great reaction. And a very, very strong competitive field has put on a great show today. So record number of lead changes, 5 different brands in the top 5. And McLaren joined the list of winners of this famous motor race at this place. I don't think Nissan can feel too disappointed with their results either, Graham. Very, very strong performance.
Not at all. They went down, but went down with honour and went down swinging.
Here's how the classes finished. AM Pro, we know, they're the outright winners. Greg Taylor, Barton Moore and Nathan Antunes, superb performance for car 5 in the AM division. And Nathan is 6 outright. Yeah, that's really strong. We mentioned the Grove Group Porsche with Le Mans 24-hour winner Alabama, and Scott McLaughlin won in Ridge's Class B, and the BM Pro Invitational for Mark Cars Australia. Time to go to the podium, and this could be a big celebration.
It's time for the 2016 Liqui Moly Bathurst 12-hour podium. And we're going to start with our outright winners. In 3rd place, Matt Bell, Guy Smith and Stephen Kane for Bentley Team M Sport. In 2nd place, Florian Strauss, Katsumasa Shiu and Rick Kelly for Nismo Athlete Global Team. And in first place for Techno Autosport, Jonathan Webb, Alvaro Parent, and Shane van Gisbergen. With the third place trophy is the Mayor of Bathurst, Gary Rush. With the trophy for second place is Bruce Morrison, Managing Director of Motoractive. And with the winners' trophies, the Honourable Paul Toole, Minister for Local Government and State Member for Bathurst. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2016 Liqui Moly Bathurst 12-hour podium.
Oh, what a great celebration, and well earned by Jono Webb and the team. John, you look at this event and where it's come to this year, it has lifted a lot this year. It's been fantastic.
Oh, it's turned a massive corner, there's no doubt, Barrett. Just look at what's going on under the podium right now. We've broken every record that we possibly could. Qualifying lap record, race lap record, attendance lap record, and distance lap record. And I think when we add everything up tomorrow, you'll see there was more people watching here in Australia, and certainly a bigger international audience if the Twitter feeds and the social media is anything to go by. It's been absolutely extraordinary.